I am a 34-year-old woman, and I have been with a 35-year-old man for 6 years. I am currently 28 weeks pregnant with our second son. About a month ago, I found out that my baby daddy and supposed love of my life and best friend had cheated on me with a woman who was married and in an open relationship, a woman that he had known prior to us getting together. At first, he told me it was only 2 months of intimacy, texting, and a drink at a hotel bar. Mind you, I found out while at Movie World trying to have a fun-filled day with our 2-year-old and my 12-year-old niece. He had done several suspicious things throughout the 6-year relationship, but I always thought he was changing for the better each time, and we were finally in a place where we could be happy. He had a new job. I had a new job. He had his family supporting him. I had family support. And we were very happy and worried about being pregnant a second time. So when I found out about him cheating while he was on a roller coaster with my nieces, I lost my composure. Bawling, angry, and devastated all at the same time, I called my sister and arranged for her and her husband to come pick her daughter up and drive my car home. I smashed his phone and left him at Movie World waiting for his sister to pick him up. I started going through all of our things when I got back home, searching for clues and answers. I called him for answers to make sure he knew how much this was ending the life of me. In a short space of 2 nights, I had decided to try and make it work. I could deal with 2 months of texting and not throw our whole 6 years in the trash over it. I could never trust him, and there were going to be boundaries between us until I could trust him again. But I was going to try. That's until he gave me back my Apple Watch that he had borrowed almost 3 years ago. It was still synced up to his old phone that he didn't have anymore, the phone he had just after I had given birth to our first son. It wasn't just 2 months of intimacy messages. It was on again, off again intimacy encounters at our previous house, with and without my 3-month-old present, and intimacy messages, and I love yous, and calling her the same loving names he called me, all while he was trying to make us work better and giving us a real shot. Apparently, he really likes to cheat on me in the moments I thought were meant to be our happiest. He shared my son with her, pictures and moments that were meant to be ours. He told her about every single date we went on while he was cheating on me. He also told her that we were in an open relationship and that I just didn't need to meet her, so she thought everything was perfectly fine. Their relationship went on and off again, depending on how unhappy he apparently felt due to our relationship. Instead of being a man and communicating with me, he decided to betray me in the cruelest of ways with someone he knew there would be no going back from. I have since messaged her to let her know the truth, and he had the nerve to get annoyed with me, saying that I had no right and that she was basically in the same shoes I was because he had been lying to her too. That now brings us to the present. The day before we went to Movie World and my whole world fell apart. We had signed a new lease together to move into our new rental. We are currently living together in separate rooms because I don't want to unsettle my son further, and I need help financially and sometimes physically with my toddler, as I'm having a difficult pregnancy this time around. I'm having a really hard time mentally. I don't really have friends, and my only reliable family is my older sister who has her own issues. For 6 years, this man has been my only real friend, family, and partner, and I don't know how to pull everything apart. I have anxiety, depression, childhood trauma, and I'm currently dealing with gestational diabetes and high blood pressure. How do I get through this without falling apart completely? How do I stop wanting to talk to him about everything when he's been my person for so long? I keep thinking he can fix it all when he's the one who broke it, and I don't know how to stop. I want to be strong for my sons, and I don't want them to grow up in a broken home like I did. I just really don't know what to do. I do know I will never forgive him. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You said for 6 years he was your only friend, family, and partner. That's your problem right there. Stop isolating yourself. It is a complete setup for failure to have only one person in your life. They say it takes a village for a reason. Go find your village. Find mother groups, walking groups. Get a hobby. Expand your horizons. If you keep your lens focused on your delusions of what he was to you, but actually isn't, then you'll never get over him. Comment 2. You ask, how do I stop seeing him as my person? The truth is that he never was your person. The guy you thought he was just doesn't exist. This is utterly heartbreaking, but you need to leave him as soon as you can. He will betray you for as long as you're together. He's a piece of shit who cannot change. The good man in your head is a fiction, I'm afraid. Now, for the update. I'm still living in the same house with my partner, but things are tense. Like, really tense. A couple weeks after I found out about his cheating, I overheard him on the phone in the living room, whispering and sounding nervous. I was in the kitchen with my toddler, trying to make lunch, when I heard his low voice. I knew something was up. I walked in, and he quickly hung up, looking guilty as hell. I asked who he was talking to, and he said it was a work call. A work call on a Saturday? Sure, buddy. But I just let it slide, trying to keep the peace for our son's sake. We had a family dinner planned at my parents' house for my dad's birthday, and I thought it would be a good distraction for the kids and me. Getting out of the house, away from the awkward silence, sounded like a good idea. My partner and I drove separately, him in his car, me in mine with our toddler. My older son was at a sleepover with his cousin, so at least he didn't have to deal with all this. During dinner, my mom asked if we were planning any family vacations. My partner was unusually quiet and kept glancing at his phone under the table. My sister made a comment about how we should all go on a trip together, and I could tell it bothered him. I excused myself to the bathroom to check my own phone, feeling the tension rise. While in the bathroom, I noticed a notification from his phone on the table. It was a text from the other woman. I quickly took a screenshot and saved it before heading back to the dinner table. When I sat back down, my partner was visibly on edge, trying to act normal. After dinner, my parents surprised us with a cake, and I felt like everything was fake. My dad was so happy, and I didn't want to ruin it for him. After cake, my brother suggested a game of charades, which lightened the mood. I played along, but kept catching my partner stealing glances at his phone. I decided to confront him later that night when the kids were asleep. We ended up arguing in the bedroom, and I threw the screenshot in his face. He denied everything, claiming it was a misunderstanding. He got angry and said I was overreacting and ruining the kids' lives. A week later, I noticed he was still texting at odd hours, and I felt the frustration boil. I went to a family friend's house for dinner to get away for a bit, and she mentioned she saw my partner out at a local bar the other night. I didn't think much of it until she told me he was with a woman who wasn't me. I went to the bar the next weekend with my friend, knowing he'd be there. I walked in and spotted him at the bar, leaning close to a woman. I waited until they were laughing and then approached them. I introduced myself loudly, making sure everyone turned to look. The woman looked confused, and my partner's face turned white. I told him I didn't appreciate him bringing his friends around while I was home with the kids. He tried to brush it off, but I could see the embarrassment on his face. I walked out. I made a plan to start looking for a place to live on my own. I spent the next few days packing up my things while he was at work, just little things here and there. I told my parents I was moving out, and they supported my decision. They even offered to help me with the move. I found a small apartment nearby and signed the lease. The last straw came when I found out he was still texting the other woman after my confrontation. I sent her a message letting her know I was moving out and to leave my family alone for good. I blocked her number, but I knew she'd probably just text him. I was done. Edit. I moved out with my kids and am slowly adjusting to this new life. My parents and sister helped me move into a 2-bedroom apartment close to their place. My toddler is having a bit of trouble with the transition, but my older son is adjusting well. My ex-partner and I have agreed on a temporary arrangement for the kids. He's been visiting them on weekends, and we're working on a more formal custody arrangement. The only communication we have now is about the kids. He still tries to apologize and convince me to come back, but I'm firm about my decision. I'm taking it one day at a time and focusing on healing. Am I the idiot for confronting my father about his secretive behavior and potential affair? My dad and mom have been married for 40 years. They still live together, but it's been some years since he's changed drastically. He is very secretive with my mom, and with all of us, for that matter. His work is about 2 hours away from the city where they live, so he leaves for work basically 4 days out of the week and stays away until Monday. My mom knows where he works and has been there before. The owner has a huge store and a small apartment above it, where my dad stays during those 4 days a week. We know that part is legitimate. However, he used to come back on Sunday mornings, but now he goes to see his dad on Sundays to take care of him and stays the night there. He goes back home on Monday mornings. But some weird things have been happening for some years. My mom, who is 65, and my older brother, who is 39, tell me that he is constantly talking on the phone when he's out running errands. My brother lives across the street from my parents, so he sees my dad constantly running errands. They live in the city, so everything is within walking distance, and my dad loves to be out walking. My brother says he is always on the phone while out, and a few times my brother has approached him and he immediately hangs up the phone. My mom has also noticed that. He is constantly deleting messages off his WhatsApp, hiding his phone when he's around my mom, always on silent, and for some years, he has been sleeping in the spare bedroom. He has slowly changed over time, but the change has become much more apparent and more radical. He also lies about money to my mom, and despite having his pension money, Social Security, and his actual pay from work, he tells her that he is broke. Luckily, my mom has her own pension, but relies on him to help out with household bills and whatnot. Well, last Saturday, my mom told me that they were eating breakfast when he got a call. He took his phone out and saw who was calling but didn't pick up. She glanced at the phone and it was a woman named Edith. So she asked him to answer, but he said he'd answer later. My mom has heard of her through my dad's random conversations from years ago. Apparently, that woman used to work with my dad many years ago. On Monday, I saw that I received a friend request. I don't log into Facebook often, but I went to see if I could find her, and to my surprise, she had actually added me on Facebook and sent me a hi message. I answered and told her, "Who are you? We have my dad as a friend in common." And she left me on scene. I pressed more, and she finally answered and said that she was a friend of your dad's, but he didn't want me to respond to you. I continued asking why he didn't want her to respond to me if she was the one who sent the message first. She said she didn't know, but that they were friends. My dad has also talked to other women before. I don't know if they were full affairs, but for some period of time, my mom caught him talking to his ex. He, of course, in good old cheater fashion, said it was just a friendly conversation. I told my brother about this Facebook interaction with the other woman, and he is incredibly upset. We don't know what to do with this information or about the whole situation. We both want my mom to kick my dad out of the house, but we haven't told her about this woman reaching out to me. I'm afraid to hurt her as her health is delicate, though I actually blame my father for this because of the amount of emotional stress he causes her with his secrets, lies, and behavior, and I'm afraid to cause her any more hurt. I need advice on what I should do about this whole situation with the woman reaching out to me. I want to confront him, but exactly how do I confront him? He's too old to be doing this nonsense. It is worth noting that I live out of the country, so I can only call or message my dad until I'm able to go back to visit. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You can ask your brother to have your mother stay with him for the meantime. The two of you can talk to your father first, tell him about the woman from Facebook, and see how he tries to explain it. It's really best if your father comes clean to your mother himself. She might not take it well if your father tries to deny it, and it's hard to coordinate a big confrontation with you so far away. Comment 2. Honestly, I would focus on protecting your mother. Make sure she is aware of all the bank accounts, insurance, retirement, healthcare, house title, etc. There are too many horror stories of fathers leaving their longtime wives and leaving them homeless and destitute. Only after that is clear should you confront your father. Now for the update, I'm back with an update about my dad's secret life that I never knew about. So, the initial post was about my dad's strange behavior, like getting a friend request from a woman named Edith, and my brother Jake and I confronted him about it. So after the first post, my mom arranged a family dinner with me, my siblings, and our partners to celebrate the holidays. To be honest, it was super tense. Like, none of us wanted to talk about the obvious issue, aka my dad being shady and ignoring my mom. He couldn't stop talking when it came to his phone, though. I swear he was glued to it. During dinner, my mom tried to engage him, but he was just giving her the cold shoulder and vague responses. I don't know if he was just being a jerk or if something was really going on. While we were clearing the table, I noticed a text from Edith pop up, and I quickly took a photo of it before he put his phone away. I know it's sneaky, but I had to. My siblings and I exchanged these concerned glances. You know, the kind where you know you're all thinking the same thing. My brother Jake even suggested confronting my dad right then and there, but I was hesitant. It just felt like the timing was off. Later in the evening, my sister Kate mentioned that she saw our dad leave the table to take a phone call in another room. So of course I decided to follow him and see who he was talking to. I didn't want to be obvious, so I was all sneaky about it. The things I overheard were shocking. He was talking in a hushed tone and he was defensive. You could hear it in his voice. I couldn't catch every single word, but it was enough to raise my suspicions. Later that week, I got a message from Edith on Facebook asking to meet in person. I was like, here we go. I reluctantly agreed. I just had to know more. So we met at a coffee shop, and she claimed she was just a friend, nothing more. I pressed her for details, and she said that she and my dad had reconnected over shared interests, which felt really off to me. I mean, what kind of interests do they have in common that require keeping it a secret? The next family gathering was planned for New Year's Eve, and I knew it was going to be tense. Like, you could feel the tension. During that gathering, my dad was unusually cheerful, and it felt fake, you know? My mom brought out games to play to lighten the mood, but he kept making excuses to leave the room. I took Jake aside and shared my concerns about our dad's behavior. He agreed something was off. We decided to confront him together at the end of the night. I caught my dad sneaking another phone call in the hallway. It was like a scene from a bad movie. We decided to wait until everyone was gathered for a toast to address the issue. So there we were, all gathered for a toast, and I called out my dad on his secretive behavior. At first, he laughed it off, but you could feel the tension in the room. My mom was confused, asking what was going on, but I didn't know how to explain. My dad finally snapped, shouting that it was none of our business, and stormed out of the room. My mom was visibly shaken, asking what had just happened. I didn't know what to tell her. Later that night, I got a frantic call from Kate. She had seen our dad with another woman at a restaurant. I felt sick. The next day, I sat down with my mom to discuss everything. I laid it all out for her, including the text notification and the meeting with Edith. She was in disbelief, struggling to process it all. Now my mom is still super confused and hurt, and honestly, so am I. It's like, how did we get here? Like, what even happened with my dad that he's been lying to us all this time? I just hope that whatever it is, we can figure it out as a family. I know it's not going to be easy, but we need to get to the bottom of all this. If anything crazy happens, I'll make sure to update. To answer a few questions, my dad eventually admitted to having a close friendship with Edith, but he claimed it was purely platonic. They talked about their interests and childhood memories, and he didn't think it was a big deal. However, my mom was still hurt and confused, feeling that there was more to the story. We all felt that he was hiding something. My dad and I aren't on speaking terms now, and I really miss the relationship we used to have. Am I the idiot for giving my girlfriend an ultimatum to get help, or I would leave? My girlfriend is a very sweet girl who has been through some serious and deep trauma in her life. About a year ago, this trauma came back to the surface and she became very depressed, hasn't worked since, is on disability, and hasn't been going to therapy despite my best efforts to encourage her. I gave her an ultimatum 3 months ago to go, or I'm done, because the stress is too much. She went 3 times and then proceeded to miss the next month's worth of appointments. She stopped taking her birth control 2 months ago. All this over time has led to a major buildup of stress for me. We live together, but she doesn't do anything, and it really rubs off on me. The constant bed rotting on her phone makes me feel depressed. It has led to my corn addiction getting worse. This has been a constant battle in our relationship, despite me opening up about it very early on, and her flip-flopping back and forth over whether it's a problem or not. Yesterday, I opened up about the struggles I've been having and how I've been having doubts about us, because she just doesn't seem to take recovery seriously. We both cried, and she slept afterward. Later in the afternoon, she went to her family's for a birthday dinner. At this dinner, she thought it would be funny to prank me for her and her sister's entertainment. The prank she pulled? Telling me that this guy she knew from 8th grade contacted her, and they'd been talking for a day, and she was going to a concert with him when I'm out of town on Saturday. She sent a screenshot of this guy's Instagram and let this go on for 15 minutes, while doubling down multiple times before finally revealing it was a prank. I snapped and flipped out. I insulted her maturity and thought process. She immediately came home to talk, but I just yelled about how stupid, unfair, immature, and disrespectful it was to play on my loyalty and emotions like that, especially when I have a college exam tomorrow. She cried and apologized, but I didn't really want to hear it, as she's had to apologize for so many mistakes in the past, giving her Instagram to a guy when she was drunk at the club, smoking cigarettes with her friends a couple of days after I told her how much I hate cigarettes, and kissing her girlfriend for pictures after promising she wouldn't do it anymore since we were official. She stormed out of the apartment, came back 10 minutes later and said, "I'm going to bed, leave me alone, we're done." So I went to bed. I heard her go into the kitchen. When I came to check on what was going on, she had cut her wrist twice and hid the knife under her pillow. I called 911 as she has a history of suicidal behavior, but she promised me she would not hurt herself again. As I said, I cannot have that in my life. I have a sister with this history. I feel very lost and betrayed right now and don't know what to do. She's blowing up my phone, apologizing over and over, saying she doesn't know what she'd do without me and that she only wants me. She's saying that talking to her mom is finally making her realize the help she needs. But that just makes me feel like my efforts to help her and encourage her to seek intensive therapy over the last year were all a waste of time and energy. I think this girl has borderline personality disorder due to the intense trauma, and I love her, but I feel like she doesn't respect me nor care about my emotions when I'm not in the same room as her. If there are any updates, I will post in the comments. Any advice is appreciated. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your girlfriend is not mature or mentally stable enough to be in a relationship. For your own sanity, you should think about breaking up with her before you get her pregnant and have to deal with this drama for over 18 years. Comment 2. Everything she's doing is for attention. From smoking to giving out her Instagram to her pranks, she's seeking attention like a child, and you should dump her because she's more trouble than she's worth. Now, for the update. 2 days after the incident, I came home from work to Olivia sitting on the couch, her phone in hand, scrolling through social media like nothing happened. I mean, seriously, can you get more unfazed? I was kinda expecting a little more emotion after everything that went down the other night. But nope, just her and her phone, living her best life. One thing that did catch my eye was that she hadn't taken her medication again. The one she promised to take. What's going on with that? Not even a mention of it. I asked if she wanted to talk about what happened, but she just shrugged it off and changed the subject to some new show on Netflix. I get it. We all need distractions, but this felt a little too convenient. Later that night, Olivia got a text from a mutual friend about plans for a weekend gathering. She was quick to agree to go, but I hesitated. Like, hold up, you've been a mess lately? Are you sure you want to dive into a party? I asked her if she was sure, and she snapped back that she could handle herself. Thanks for making me feel like an overprotective dad, Olivia. That really made my night. The next day, I had a dinner planned with my family at a restaurant to celebrate my mom's birthday. I invited Olivia, hoping it would be a good distraction for her. My family always knows how to have a good time, even if it's just for the free food. At dinner, everyone was happy, sharing stories and laughing around the table. When we talked about future plans, I mentioned wanting to take things slow, and there was a brief pause at the table. You could practically hear the awkward silence. Olivia suddenly excused herself to the restroom, and I was left explaining her absence. This was not how I pictured tonight going. After a few minutes, Olivia came back looking upset, and the mood shifted. I tried to lighten the mood by joking about my cooking skills, but Olivia didn't laugh, not even a pity chuckle. She was quiet the rest of the dinner, and I noticed my family exchanging concerned glances. When we got home, Olivia immediately went to bed and shut the door behind her like a teenager trying to avoid their parents. The following day, I found her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. I know, I shouldn't have looked. But curiosity got the best of me, and I saw a string of messages with some guy from her past. Instead of confronting her, I decided to keep quiet. I had no idea how she'd react, and honestly, I wasn't in the mood for another blow-up. Later that week, Olivia mentioned wanting to go see a concert with friends, including that same guy. I casually mentioned that I wasn't comfortable with her going, recalling her past behavior. You know, the stuff that got us into this mess. She became defensive, insisting it was just a concert and that I was overreacting. Here we go again. We ended up in a heated argument where she accused me of controlling her life. I never thought I'd be in a relationship where I'd be accused of being controlling for wanting to set some boundaries. The argument escalated, and she shouted that I didn't trust her. This was just a recipe for a sleepless night. After a night of tossing and turning, I woke up to find a note on the kitchen table from Olivia. The note stated she was going to stay with a friend for a few days to think things over. A few days? More like a lifetime. The next day, I got a text from her saying she had arrived safely at her friend's place. A few days passed with no contact. I tried to focus on work, but it was difficult. My mind kept wandering back to Olivia and what was going on with her. On the 5th day, I got a call from her friend, who mentioned that Olivia was having a hard time. Her friend said she was concerned about Olivia's mental state and asked if I could reach out. I decided to text Olivia, keeping it simple and supportive. I told her I was here for her, but I didn't receive a response. Not even a thumbs up emoji. A week later, I got a phone call from Olivia while I was at work. She told me she was coming back home, but she wasn't sure she was ready to talk yet. I hung up, staring at my phone like it was the cause of all my problems. Edit. I had some people asking about the messages I found on Olivia's phone. They were just friendly chats with an ex. Nothing too serious. I didn't bring it up because I didn't think it was worth the trouble. Also, Olivia said she didn't respond to my text because she needed space, not because she was ignoring me. I talked to her friend about how Olivia was doing, and she said she was feeling better. I guess that's a good sign. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.